Hi, Jemila. Welcome. Today we are talking with Jemila all about her unassisted home births, and she is from Soul Child Essentials. We are going to jump into this. I'm really excited. I wanted unassisted home births, but I chickened out, and good for you. uh, so share your motivation. I want to know a little bit about why. Why did you want this, and how did you come about actually doing it?
Okay, so for me, it started, I still have a daughter, she's 8 years old.
Mhm.
When I had my daughter, I was inspired to become a doula. And from working with more women and seeing through like how their processes were very similar to mine, being re-traumatized and things like that, I just decided, you know what? I'm not coming back to a hospital for a birth anymore, not for myself, especially once the pandemic came around. That
Yeah.
just like really like solidified that for me. Like, I don't want to go back. And so how I got to having an unassisted home birth came simply because just financially, I wasn't able to afford a midwife. So, but I knew I wasn't going back to a hospital. So I had to sit and really, become one with myself and really just get into working past any fears that I had about doing a home birth in general, let alone, unassisted. And that helped me out a lot with preparing for it.
Yeah. That's something, especially if you've already had a hospital birth. I had a hospital birth with our 8-year-old, and I never wanted to go back either, but I did.
It's hard. It's really hard, especially like, a lot of people don't have like the support around them that is like encouraging it or even, just making you feel good about it overall. I know that that makes a difference. And I don't think I would have been able to do it if my partner wasn't so supportive of me.
Yeah. The whole time they ready
Yeah, he,
to.
he pretty much knew because I just had already had talked about it before I even got pregnant. Like, I'm like, yep, next time I have a baby, I'm gonna have a home birth. And, it was one of those things that was like, I don't care if I don't have money. Another thing I will say about that too, watching other people's stories over the years before having my second daughter, I was finding other people who had actually had unassisted births. And so it gave me a lot more confidence. Like, it's more normal now.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, is very helpful to be able to, feel empowered towards making that decision to do that.
I love that. That's a big thing, especially watching those births. I've watched those births on some Facebook groups, and they're beautiful.
Yes, it
Love it.
is. It's a beautiful experience for sure.
Yeah. All right. So did you have any assistance at all? Like was your partner there? And
Yes.
what
So,
all you?
um, okay, so I did have assistance. I'm even as a doula, I still feel like having doula support was important to me. So that was something that, beyond finances, I was like, okay, I have to at least budget a certain amount to be able to pay for some support. So both of my home births, I had a doula that I hired. My first one, I think I was in denial about my labor, and she actually missed the birth by about 10 minutes. And
Oh,
but the second go around, I was a lot more aware. I was calling her earlier to let her know, like, I think it's time. And she was there. She was able to be hands-on and very assistive to me with, just after the transition and everything, just through everything, like just really great support. I definitely recommend that no matter what, like having somebody there. And then even what I'll say with my second home birth, it was very, very important. I was so glad that my doula was there because at this time now so I have two under two. So we have like a 1.5 year old and she's like up crying and upset and stuff. So he actually ended up being with our baby when I actually pushed the next baby out. It happened so fast. So that was helpful that I had my doula there with me at that time. Because if not, I probably would just, been in that moment just by myself. And so that was reassuring.
oh yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad that somebody was there to be with.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like that having somebody close to you is it's more reassuring and gives you the power to get through it.
Yes, absolutely. She was very reassuring, very much like, giving me all the affirmations, words of affirmations. Those are things that, for me, that works really well. And that was really helpful, like to have her there.
Oh, well, good. So what preparations did you make for your house, for your environment? What did you Did you have some type of lights? Did you have a birthing tub? What'd you have?
So no birthing tub. I had originally thought that I was like, let me think about doing like a water birth. But then the idea of like how I'm gonna fill up this tub, how we gonna release the water. I'm on the third floor of an apartment. It was too much. I was like, then if the water gets cold, like, so I scratched that whole idea of like birthing in the water. Some things that I did to prepare was like I bought like shower curtain liners, for example, to like cover my floors with if I'm like walking around the labor or wherever I was planning on like, potentially giving birth, which was for me was in my room area. So I have my room, then my bathroom. I have a patio. So I was putting like making my patio look really nice and pretty in case I went in labor like during the daytime and I wanted to relax out there. But I went in labor both times overnight. So I never really used my patio in that sense. But I did like, for example, my bathroom has a window. So like I made my plants look really nice up there, like to give that vibe for me. I had candles in different places. Birthing overnight, especially, it's like you don't want to turn on all the lights. My kids were asleep. I'm like, I don't want to wake them up. So, I just had the candles like really soft and that was like really helpful for me. And then other things like I did what was called like a lotus birth. So keeping the baby's umbilical cord attached with the placenta. So I had to get the things for that, like some herbs and salt blend. I just went to like the dollar store and got like a bowl and a colander, very simply to just hold the placenta in. And that was the main thing, like cleaning the space and organizing it was like very important to me. That was a huge thing for me.
I love that you did that. That's awesome. I might have to have you talk about that a little more. So that's whenever you birth the baby and then you birth the placenta. You keep them all together. So you're holding the baby, right? So you're holding baby's
Mhm.
skin and then you wait it on the placenta and then you put it in a bowl full of herbs and you let it just sit there for how long?
Yeah, so it typically takes between like 2 to 10 days. My first time it took around like 6 days for it to detach, and then the second time maybe like 4 days. It was like a lot quicker, which was good. And so yeah, the herbs and then the salt. The salt helps to dry it out quicker. And then the herbs like mask any type of scent that you would have. I never smelt it. It just took it all away. It was like perfect. Herbs and just like pretty flowers and stuff like that. And yeah, my doula and my partner, whoever, when I needed to like move around, someone would help hold like baby, and we had the placenta there because it's her umbilical cord was pretty long, but at the same time, it's still like you got a lot to move with both of them.
Yeah.
So that's probably like the biggest challenge. But the best part about doing the lotus birth and doing that is that like it really forces you to just like rest and to be
Mhm.
still. And so many times I think a lot of women don't do that enough. And that I learned my lesson with that on this last go around for sure. Like needing to just rest your body.
Mhm.
That's 6 weeks in.
I love that. Maybe more women need to be doing that because resting is so important and we just want to jump out of there and just go about our day. So
Exactly. No,
should
for
do that
sure.
more.
It's Yeah, no, I think society pushes us to feel like we gotta hurry up and like snap back and recover and get back to work and start doing these things. But it's like, no, it is so vital to like slow it down. I noticed that when I was feeling okay about within like 2 weeks or so, the first 2 weeks, I was like feeling okay. I thought, let me just like move some clothes from the washing machine to the dryer. And oh my goodness, I regretted that so bad. I had the most intense like afterbirth, like cramp contractions happening. So no, I'm like, no, we are supposed to rest. That was something I didn't know too. They say the more babies you have, the worse your afterbirth pain is. And this last go around with my third baby was the worst I had ever experienced. I was like, is something wrong?
Oh
Because it's
no.
so bad. Yeah, so just a note, because I did not know that. I said all my doula friends and nobody told me this beforehand.
I mean, I get that. I don't even remember my first having any pain after my first. I just
Same.
I was 24 too, so it's a big
Oh,
difference.
same. So
Yeah.
we're exactly the same. We have 8-year-old. We were 24 when we had them.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got two little ones too, under two.
Oh my goodness. And so, what do you have? Girls, boys?
I have two boys. So I have an 8-year-old boy and then just turned 3-year-old boy and then a 20-month-old girl.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I got all girls right now.
That's awesome. I think girls are so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah.
I was like, please give me a girl. And I got one.
Yeah, at least you got your one. I feel like you got to be prepared for what you don't want because that's how the universe works. You're going to get what you don't want.
I was ready to have all boys. I
Yeah.
was very surprised. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So did you have any challenges or complications at all? It's
Um,
but
no, not with my home. Well, okay, so the only challenge was probably my placenta taking longer to release on my first home birth, second baby. Um, normally they say like within an hour you need to birth your placenta. It took about 2 hours or so. And so of course at that time I was just kind of like, I'm over it. I'm ready to like get out this tub. I'm ready to like get up and do something else. And but I had to just wait. And so when I was preparing for my second home birth, I had made sure I had a tincture to kind of help get things moving along if it wasn't moving already. So a little less than 2 hours on the second home birth, we getting the placenta out. But other than that, like nothing, like no extra bleeding, like barely any bleeding. I was so surprised that it wasn't more blood because I just always, you just think birth and blood,
yeah.
but it wasn't that bad. Yeah, everything. I'm so grateful. Like my processes were just like so smooth, so straight to the point. I kept telling myself, this is very important for women to know, like what you tell yourself and what you believe is what you're going to experience. And I just kept telling myself, like, I am not going to be pushing all day. My babies are going to come ready. Like they're just going to come out. And I kept doing that. My first child, 3 pushes. The other two was 2. And then the baby, the last one, I had pretty much like the fetal ejection reflex happened where it was just like uncontrollable, like a little slight push in a squat and boom, baby like slid out. And I was just like,
Good for
that
you.
was it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my goodness. That's when I said, would you believe we have another girl?
So you didn't know the sexes of the babies at all?
No. So for both of those pregnancies, I had no like prenatal routine care. I was doing my own types of things. I did have I found a really good deal on like a heart, like the monitor, I'm talking about the heart monitor.
Yeah.
Um, so I found one of those. And so like occasionally I would just check and see how baby was sounding and not much though, like maybe like 2 times in each pregnancy. And like that was it. Other than that, everything felt fine. Like I felt good. The baby would be moving, pretty active, pretty normal. So I just, yeah, that was how my process and my path went.
Yeah. And you already know, like the first baby, did you have all the genetic testing and all that? Or you didn't care to do that either?
I didn't have no genetic testing. We did the regular like routine ultrasounds. Surprisingly, I don't even think they ever asked me for the genetic testings and stuff like that. So I never did that. Everything was fine though. And yeah, the ultrasounds were okay, but just me knowing what I know now, I was like, it doesn't even make sense for me to like try to go get some.
Yeah.
I think that it is what it is like that. And that's my thought is like, especially like I'm in Texas where the laws are a little different now. I think that you could be almost punished for um if something happens to your baby, right? And to me, it's a big protection to not go put yourself in the system a lot and
Yeah.
having them in it. Say something was to happen and to come up. Now I'm gonna look negligent, or they could come to me. There was literally just something that happened. I want to say either Ohio or Indiana with this woman, and they like released her from it. But like that's scary to think about. Like you could have a miscarriage and already be traumatized, and then they can try to give you a felony charge for it. So I just am like, in my mind, I have to avoid those things a lot more and take some more control back for myself and for like my body and my family.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you.
Healthcare system should not be allowed to do these things either.
At all. It's a shame. Like it's literally medical bullying, but
Hmm.
it's what needs to be done. This is how it has to go.
I think that's why becoming a doula is so awesome because we can help women understand what should happen or should not happen in the hospital or any type of birth. And
Yes,
that's one reason to become a doula, you know. But
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Best decision ever. I think we all, like all of our families, I think everyone needs a doula around them.
yeah. One doula in each family, and we'd all be set.
Seriously, seriously.
Um, so okay, we just answered that. I was going to ask you how you stayed informed about the progress of your labor, but um, so the progress of your labor, you felt it, you knew exactly when baby was coming. I mean, I feel like
But
after your second baby, you're definitely more in tune with your body. So you're knowing exactly the process of things. I mean, every birth is different, but you have like a general understanding of what your body is capable of and what's happening in that moment. So, did you like go super fast through all of your stages of labor? Or, and since it's your third baby, I know stages happen faster. So did it feel
yeah,
like it went faster through your third pregnancy than your second pregnancy birth?
definitely did. Definitely a lot faster. With the second pregnancy, I had lost like a little bit of my mucus plug on one day, and I was starting to have like little contractions. I noticed they were more consistent if I was like laying down versus when I was like moving around, walking and doing stuff.
Mhm.
So I basically, with the second one, I went into labor like 24 hours before my baby was actually born. I actually went to work and everything. I thought I was going to be working that weekend. It was so funny because I was like, I wasn't ready for her to come yet. I was trying to work some more. So I had, like I said, I had went into some pre-labor. The labor contractions were coming every in the start of the day when I was like at home, it was like maybe every like 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And then when I went to work and I'm moving around walking, I wasn't really feeling them except for like maybe 2, 3 hours.
Yeah.
So like I wasn't really expecting it to be happening like it did. And they actually had even stopped for about 5 hours or so. I went to sleep and then I woke up around 1 and I was in labor. But I was still in denial, even though at that point I think I had lost the rest of my mucus plug. And so I was in denial, and I think that me being in denial made my labor be longer for
Mm.
that one. But still, I was in active labor for about 6 hours that time. And then the last birth I had, I didn't have any of that pre-labor. I did not lose my mucus plug at all. So this was something that I'm like, okay, good to know now. Like I never lost my mucus plug. My water may have broke in the toilet, but like I don't really have any confirmation of that. I don't honestly ever remember seeing my water breaking or feeling that happen. Um, it was like yeah, I was in labor for my last one for a little less than 5 hours. 2 hours, little less than 2 hours, where it was like super intense. Probably what would you call that? I guess like the third stage right before I'm getting ready to push.
The
That little stage
stage.
was about that was about less than 2 hours, the most intense. And so with that one, just to explain, I actually had gotten to the tub because what I did with my second one, I got in the tub and then boom, it was time. She was born. So I felt like going in the tub, of course, was like a relaxing moment, something for me to help cope with the contractions and the pains. But then you get that sensation of like I gotta poop. So I got out the toilet, off the tub, and then into onto the toilet for a minute, just in case something had to happen. And nothing was going on. Then I started to really have that like I gotta push sensation. And I thought I was gonna get back in the tub, but when I like stood up in between the contractions, they started again. And that was when I was like, just push and stood up and squatted a little bit and she came out. So
You had a
I
toilet baby birth.
pretty much, yep. Yep.
Mhm.
And that was my thing. I was like, I don't want her to fall in the toilet. So I got up real quick, but it was like time. I could not get back in the tub. I was trying to, but it was, that involuntary your body, like,
Yeah.
and that's a hard part too, is like when you feel the contractions, you want to tense up, but it's like trying to remind myself to like release. And my doula was really good about like, just release, relax, relax. It's okay. And, reminding me that I was tensing up so that I can release. Cause really the more you tense up, the more you resist, the longer you're going to be there experiencing that. And that was my thing. I was like, I'm not trying to do this all day. I need to do this now.
Oh yeah. That's too funny. Yeah, your body knows when it's time. That baby's
That
coming.
it is.
And
Yep.
it's funny how even being a doula, how you forget things. They just go out the window whenever you're having birth. It's like I know these things, I've studied these things, I talk about them all the time, but you get so in your own mind that everything's out. You just know that you're in this, the baby's coming. Yeah.
Yep. That's all you can think about. It's like you don't, it's definitely, and that's like you say, like knowing it is one thing, but when you're in the moment, you can't think about all those things. So that was why like having a doula was still like so valuable and so important for me to like, know how to move through things still.
Did you have the same doula at both births? You have
No,
a
I had different doulas. Yep. My doula from my second birth actually ended up being pregnant at the same time with me on this last one.
Oh.
We were like weeks apart. It was just like funny how that happens.
All right. Were there any specific techniques or practices used to manage pain or discomfort? So,
Um,
like, what type of movements did you do? You said,
Definitely like the swaying movement was helpful. For me getting up and like walking around, like moving around in my apartment a little bit,
Mhm.
because it's like a distraction thing. Like, okay, let me do something else. Let me like move and I don't know. I was just doing like little stuff, like folding up little clothes or something. And so that was helpful. The breathing for me, I needed to I did a lot of like visualizing with my deep breaths. So trying to imagine baby like moving down, moving out, like everything happening, baby wanting to come out. Like I was just like, when I would breathe and I would have those intense motions, that's what I was thinking about a lot. Like, okay, move on down. Like it's time.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. People should, they get in their own zone. I went off into like driftland, like I'm at the beach, but the thought of baby coming down probably helped out a lot.
I believe it does. I really do. I'm big on like visualization. Actually, I started it during my second pregnancy when I was getting like the morning sickness and nausea and stuff.
Mhm.
I just was like, I don't want to throw my food up like after I just ate, like I was so hungry. That would happen to me. That was my response. Like if I waited too long to eat, then my stomach would just all of a sudden like knot up and just be a problem. So I would do a lot of visualization to help keep my stomach relaxed and imagine my food staying in place. And it worked a lot much more. Like I would rarely like vomit after that because of that practice.
I like that visualization. I need to write that one down.
Yes, trust me, it's a great one.
So you gave birth over the toilet on your third one.
Mhm.
And what about your second one? It was
Uh,
in the tub?
I was in a tub and people always say, oh, did you have a water birth? And I said, yes, but not intentionally. I was literally in there for comfort and I didn't realize I was that close to having my baby when I got in there.
Yeah.
Um, we were literally still running the water in the tub when I was pushing her out.
Wow.
That's I was not, I didn't really know. I wasn't aware. And with her, it was like I felt the urge to push and I like touched down and I was like, oh, so that was like my water bag. So on the one urge, I like pushed the water bag and then the contractions are so close. I immediately right after that was like, I could tell it was about to be that ring of fire moment. I'm like, oh no, don't want her to just sit there. So I like quickly pushed, her head came out and then boom, the rest of the body came out and her daddy actually caught her that time around, which was like perfect.
Aw. Oh, that's so exciting. I bet
Yeah.
that was thrilling for him. That made my eyes tear up. I love those moments.
Yes, it was beautiful. And like the whole time I was like in labor, he really didn't know how to like help me and like comfort me. I think he was in his own state of shock and everything of like he was just praying because he knew it was nothing else he could do. I was not going to a hospital unless like, and we talked about that. Like, what are some signs of me not looking okay? Like, who I am, how I am, I just gave him like that kind of background. Like if something doesn't look right, that. So other than that, he had to be on board with the whole process. And so yeah, him catching her was like perfect. She came out, she was completely under the water. And, he asked me like, you want me to take her out now? And he was very slow with it. And she came out afterwards. And that's what I tell people too. A lot of times I've learned that when babies come and they're having the water birth, they rarely come out crying. A lot of times they don't cry. And so when she came out, she was completely quiet for a while. The first time she cried was I was putting her from one breast to another, and she didn't like that. She started crying then. But other than that, she was like just so quiet, so
Oh,
peaceful.
that's good. I think the more peaceful your birth is, the more peaceful that child is.
I
Yeah.
believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Both of my last two, at least in the small baby stage, they've been like really like relaxed and peaceful. That middle one, she's turning up now. Like she's at that 2-year-old age, and
Oh
she's
yeah,
like, I'm like, where's my little relaxed, chill baby? She's like turning up.
I get it. I think they get to that age and you're done. Yeah.
That's it.
So when you had your children, what was your postpartum like other than the placenta? So you relaxed the whole 6 weeks. Did you go to any body to get checked? Like, I know you couldn't have a midwife, but did your doula come back and check on you, make sure you're all good, or did you have any type of postpartum care?
Yeah, so never went to the doctors or anything. With both of them, actually, we did like the APGAR test at home. We just kind of like looked it up online. It's very easy to do. And just kind of like gauged and referenced things like that. I did have some postpartum visits, more so the second time around I did, checking in with me, and just, periodically they would both like reach out either way afterwards to just see like how am I feeling, asking me just different questions about like what I would be experiencing in that moment. Um, let's see. Yeah, I did for myself personally, like yoni steaming. That was one of the things that I did. I would take nice therapeutic baths also afterwards. Those were kind of like my personal care otherwise. And I think
What did you say?
that's like the thing.
The first,
Like baths and yoni steam.
what is that? Is that where you sit over the steam?
Yep, yep. Sit over the bowl of herbs. I have like it's a mixture of herbs. Some of the ones like you would know is like red raspberry, chamomile, nettle, different things that rejuvenate and help with the healing process. I would do my yoni steam with that. And I like baths a lot too. So sometimes if I don't feel like setting up the whole toilet, like the whole, not the toilet, but the yoni steam set, I'll just like put some herbs in my bath and just like sit in it in that way too. Especially those like first couple of weeks. And with this last baby, because I told you like those afterbirth pains were so much more intense. I didn't have any because I just wasn't aware. I never had it with the other two. So I'm like, okay, note to self, you need like an afterbirth like tincture or something to help with those extra pains. Um, so I was hopping in the bathtub with my salt blends and stuff like that and relaxing in that way.
Something just popped up. Sorry.
It's okay.
So do you sell the herbs, right? Did I
I
see them
do.
on
I sell,
the website?
I do. I sell the Yanni steam. I sell teas. I have some tinctures. I'm still expanding it a little bit more, but I do have stuff that's like related to birth. That was kind of like my focus initially. That, and then I have ones that's like for just immunity and wellness. Like, people are always coming across, especially since COVID. It's like there's so many things to be aware of. So I have like things for that purposes as well.
I love that. That's awesome.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So shout out to you on some herbs and your jewelry. I saw that.
Yeah.
That's some beautiful jewelry you have.
You. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
actually like a pandemic kind of hobby thing that I picked up when I wasn't able to work anymore. And I was like needing some way to sustain. And so that's kind of how I got into doing the jewelry aside. So
Yes.
yes,
You.
thank you.
You're rocking
Yeah.
that. So, oh, did you have to obtain like any documents? Did you want any documents for when your child was born, like a birth certificate or any of that?
Okay, so yes, I'll tell you about that story. So I was hesitant for a while about the process of going to get a birth certificate, but I knew I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to get it because I want to travel. I want to leave this country. And so I'm like, we need passports. So I'm like, okay. And I was like dragging my feet, but I'm like, I knew before she turns one, because once they turn one, it becomes like way harder to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, dragging my feet with it. And lo and behold, my baby was about 10 months. And I came across this woman who had posted about her daughter who had a passport with no social security and no birth certificate. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Are you serious? And so I started immediately doing my stuff. And girl, I have a passport for my daughter. I'm getting ready to start the process for the youngest one again. To let you know, like, it's real. You can do that. I know a lot of people are like, well, why would you want to do that? There's a lot of reasons why. You can go research for yourself, but I will say that having the documents and things that we created already to get the passport, if down the line it was wanted to do all those other things, it wouldn't really be that hard to do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was a process, but it was not actually as bad as I was expecting it to be before I started it.
I think that's a big thing. And I've been a part of the unassisted birth world, like the Facebook stuff. And a
Mhm.
lot of the questions are about birth certificates and all that. Where did you go? What'd you do? Like people really worried about that afterward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different, and I guess because I can't explain how to do it for that process of directly getting the birth certificate. It would probably go a little bit similar though, like you create that birth affidavit. Um, I did the affidavit myself, and then when you're doing a passport, they have their own affidavit too. So when I submitted for the passport, I did like all of that. But otherwise, if somebody's trying to get a birth certificate after like an unassisted birth, of course they would need an affidavit. They usually want some proof of pregnancy, but there's many ways to prove that more so now. Like everyone has records online at this point with their pregnancies and posting pictures and stuff. That was my thing. I actually didn't have any of that stuff posted. So I was a little bit more paranoid about like, how am I gonna like prove this? But affidavits notarized, that's like your proof.
And you have a doula, your doula. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so what advice would you give to somebody wanting a home birth other than what you've already given us? If you have anything extra
Yeah.
to add.
Education is everything, home birth, hospital birth, anything, education is everything. Um, I would say build your team around you of people who support you. Don't share your plans with everybody. And this goes for anything. You don't need to share your plans, that everything that you're doing with certain people. Everybody doesn't need to know. And
Yeah.
that's a level of protection to just keep things going and keep things in order for yourself. Because as soon as you start to have somebody who doesn't believe in it invited or they know about it, then the energy gets thrown off. And I've seen this in other people's home births that I've supported as well. How like if the team is not on board, like everyone who's going to be in that space at that time is not 100% on board, you need to rethink this or find a different place or something, work something else out, because that can really interfere with the progression of the birth as well.
Yeah. Totally get that. Energy is everything for real.
Mhm.
All right. So where can we find you online? Or if they're in Texas, where can we come to you and find you?
Yes, so online, I don't have a office space just yet, but I am in Houston. I do travel to support. So if you're in an area that does not have like doulas and midwives and things like that, I will show up and support and assist. But I am online at Soul Child Essentials, and Soul Child is spelled SOL, soul like the sun, and then Child Essentials. You can do soulchildessentials.com. If it's on Instagram and TikTok, it's soulchild.essentials. And hopefully I'll be having a YouTube channel coming soon. So if y'all are watching this and you haven't yet, you can go ahead and subscribe there. I would love that to help it get started.
That's awesome. All right. So Jamila, thank you so much for your time. This was
Thank
so
you,
much
Megan.
fun. And
Yes,
I'm going to be sharing this on the blog and YouTube and all. So I will tag you in all of it and everybody can come find you from here too. All Right. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I hope you
Thank
have a
you.
great day, and I appreciate all the insights for unassisted birth. They were
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you for opening the platform.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
All right. We'll see ya.
All right, have a good one.
You too.